I want to take a moment and thank all of my patrons. You guys keep me going. And if you want to help support the channel, you can do so by joining my Patreon, or you can click the like button or subscribe to the channel. All of those really help the channel out. Thank you guys very much. Welcome to the Twisted Tentacle Inn. I'm your innkeeper, and today we'll be talking about Adventurers League. I got my start with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition playing in Adventurers League, and I think a lot of people get at least introduced into the game by going into an Adventurers League game and then finding their group that way. I think there are a lot of benefits to playing in Adventurers League, especially if you don't have a regular play group, but there are also some drawbacks, and I think it'd be interesting for me to go over some of my experiences and some of the things that I think are really good about Adventurers League, and some things that I think could be improved or that you may not like. Currently, I don't play Adventurers League games anymore because I did find a regular gaming group, and now I have a couple of groups that I play with and have a lot of fun with. But I did find my main play group through Adventurers League, so there's something to be said about that. And if you're not familiar with what Adventurers League is, it's a officially sanctioned games that Wizards of the Coast sets up through different gaming stores. So if you're looking to get into Dungeons & Dragons and don't have a play group, or you just want to play with someone because your current play group is not currently available and you really want to play, you can head to a gaming store and take your character with you and play in Adventurers League. So it is sanctioned by Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons, but it's not an actual league per se. You're not competing with anybody. You're not gaining points to advance further than anybody else. It's all very loosely followed. Like there are rules and official things, but it's not something that is hardcore or tracked through some digital means. It's a very handled very loosely, let's just say. With that out of the way, let me go ahead and go into some of the pros for Adventurers League. One of the biggest pros, I think, is that you can play whenever and wherever you want. There's no clashing schedules to prevent your game from happening. If you want to play tonight, all you have to do is search your local game store, see which one is hosting an Adventurers League game, and show up. Generally, you don't even have to make an appointment. You just show up with your character and you sit at a table. As soon as you get there, they'll find a table for you and you can start playing. And the great thing is there are only 4 tiers of play for Dungeons & Dragons. There's tier 1, which is your character levels 1 through 4. Tier 2, which is levels 5 through 10. Tier 3, which is 11 through 16. And tier 4, which is level 17 through 20. If you have a character, then you're going to fit in one of those 4. So there's always generally going to be a table available for you. The higher level games are more rare. So chances are if you want to play a tier 4 game or even a tier 3 game, those are going to be much harder to find. But tier 1 and 2 are very common, and generally you'll find a table pretty easily. And most game stores have a set schedule of when they host Adventurers League games. Some stores even just host nightly games, so you can show up any night on some game stores and be able to find a game to play. Another great thing about Adventurers League is that you can meet some really cool people and learn a lot about the game. Especially if you're new to the game, it can be very overwhelming, and generally Adventurers League Dungeon Masters are really good about helping new players get into the game, and people that you sit at a table with are usually really good as well about teaching you the rules and kind of talking to you on the side to help you, catch up with the game. It's really a friendly environment in general. One other great thing that I really enjoyed about Adventurers League is that it's a great way to try out many different characters. So you can make, if you want to try out a wizard, you can make a wizard. And then if next week you want to try out a fighter, you can make a fighter. And then if the following week you want to go back to your wizard, you can. Because it's no campaign structure, you can jump back and forth between different characters and get to try out all sorts of combinations, character ideas, and character concepts, and see which ones work well for you and which ones you like the most. So there's very few ways that I found that I've been able to test out so many different character ideas than with Adventurers League. Another great thing is you can take your character and play epic games at conventions and special events. And if you've never played at an epic, it is awesome. The way that works, it's a multi-table adventure. So let's say you have 10 tables playing and they're all different tiers. So you'll have one table with 5 people playing and they'll all be tier 1, level 1 through 4, and another table of 5 through 7, and you're all playing the same adventure, but basically there's different aspects to it. So like there's one where you're defending a castle. So the tier 1 characters have to sneak under a tunnel to try to block off the creatures that are trying to sneak into the castle from under. Meanwhile, the tier 2 characters are fighting one of the generals, and then the tier 3 characters are fighting the dragon that's flying overhead, let's say. And then the dragon will fly from table to table and cause effects. So clearly tier 1 characters aren't going to be able to withstand dragon breath from an ancient dragon, but the dragon may have breathed fire in the above the tunnel, causing it to collapse and creating some difficult terrain or maybe burning areas. And so those heroes have to face that obstacle that was created by the dragon because the tier 3 characters didn't kill it quick enough. That kind of stuff. There's just so many cool things that you can do with the epics because there are enemies that can interact and move from table to table, special spells and effects that can affect different tables. So it really feels like you are just these tremendous amounts of groups of adventurers all fighting towards the same goal and being affected by the same thing that you're fighting against. It's fantastic. If you've never played an epic, I highly recommend that you do. So if you've never tried or wanted to try Adventurers League, I think it's worth it just for the epic games. Another great benefit about Adventurers League is that you can play in some of the official D&D adventuring books and still have a legal Adventurers League character. So if you played Rise of Tiamat with a character and you've played it all the way through, you can take that same character and still play in Adventurers League adventures that are unrelated or whatnot. As long as the book was run within the guidelines, your character will be legal to play at other tables. And also with Adventurers League, it's great to play some of the really cool adventures that are available. There are so many one-shot adventures available for Adventurers League, and it's honestly a great way to learn how to structure a one-shot adventure because the pacing has to be done in a very specific way because of the time limits with Adventurers League. Those adventures can really teach you a lot about creating your own adventures or dungeon mastering adventures that are limited to a time crunch. You're also guaranteed to sit at a table with a player's handbook. So if you don't want to spend money or invest in the game because you're not sure if you're going to like it yet, it's great because you'll go and play, make a character using the SRD, the standard rules document, that's free. Make your character, go sit at a table, and then people will lend you their player's handbook that you can kind of sort through and learn about the game. And then if you like it, you can buy the books that you want to buy. It's great. Adventurers League is also great if you want a more casual gaming experience because you're not constantly meeting every week. You can take a break. You can take a week off, a month off, whatever you want. And it's definitely more casual, and you'll be able to show up with the same characters and be able to continue playing them exactly where you left off in terms of their level and advancement. Now, Adventurers League isn't perfect. There are some drawbacks. Specifically, the rules can be changed at any moment, and Season 8 specifically saw some sweeping changes and turned a lot of people off. So sometimes the company and the administrators for Adventurers League make some decisions that some people don't like, and well, there's not much you can do about it because they're standard changes. You're kind of forced into abiding by those rules if you want to maintain an Adventurers League legal character. Another drawback for Adventurers League is that the setting is generally Forgotten Realms. Sourcebooks from other settings aren't generally Adventurers League legal. The only exception to this was Barovia, since Season 4 was based around the Curse of Strahd book. But if you have a character who went to Barovia and didn't play any adventures that allowed you to escape the Barovia land, then that character was done. You wouldn't be able to play them in another Adventurers League game until you played one of the adventures that let him leave Barovia. So kind of a drawback there. Another drawback for Adventurers League is that there's no focused storyline. So if you're looking for a more like campaign experience with a long storyline, generally that's not going to be the case. There are seasons, so there are specific adventures made for each season that kind of follow a general storyline, but you're not guaranteed to find either those games in order when you go play at your local game store. DMs may want to run an adventure from a previous season, and you may play them out of order. Like, there's just no guarantee that you're going to follow a set storyline. So if you're looking for that type of experience, then Adventurers League may not be the right choice for you. Adventurers League is also limited as to the sources that you can use to create your character. For a long time, there was the Player's Handbook +1 rule, so you can only use the Player's Handbook and one additional source to make your character. You can use like the spells from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, subclass from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and then the Player's Handbook, and then a race from Volo's Guide. You wouldn't be able to do that in Adventurers League. they've grown a little bit more lax about this recently. They made a major change where they kind of got rid of the player's handbook +1 rule, but there are still limitations. So you can't just make whatever character you want, unfortunately. In my experience with Adventurers League, the tables tend to be filled to capacity because there is a general low amount of dungeon masters willing to run games, whereas there's a high amount of players. So a lot of times they tend to overpack the tables. And the rules say that you can't have more than 7 players plus a dungeon master at any given table. Unfortunately, that's not the reality. And I've sat at many tables for Adventurers League where I was playing with 8 or 9 total player characters. And in my opinion, that's just too much, and it creates a very unfun play experience because to be able to run a game for 9 players, I know that Critical Role does that quite a bit. It's not easy and it's not fun. It's cool to watch for those of you who like to watch that Critical Role show. It's cool to watch because these people are more entertaining, but in real life, like generally having a table with 9 players, it's kind of mayhem and it's not a whole lot of fun. And then sometimes it's just really hard to find a table to sit at because they get filled so quickly. So you want to show up early and talk to a DM before a game so that you're guaranteed to sit at their table. So it's a good strategy. Show up early, find out who's DMing, and then kind of get to know them, chit chat a little bit, and then be like, oh, hey, can I sit at your table today? And then that way you know that you're going to have a spot. It's not always the case that they're filled to capacity or have 9 players at a table, but in my experience, generally you're playing with at least 6 players at your table almost all of the time. Another drawback from Adventurers League is that the reality is, because there are so many players, you will run into some problem players, and you will run into some problem dungeon masters at your table, and it's often not very easy to fix these problems because dungeon masters are so hard to come by. Generally, a lot of this kind of stuff is overlooked and allowed just because that person is willing to run games. So sometimes it can lead to a pretty bad experience. And if you search online, you'll find many horror stories of people sitting at tables at game stores where they had a terrible experience. And unfortunately, that's something that can't be avoided. Another drawback from Adventurers League is that the games themselves and your enjoyment is not going to be consistent because it's inevitable that you're sometimes going to play at tables where the play styles are not necessarily compatible with your play style. What you're looking for in a particular game is not going to be the same as what someone else might be looking for. And if someone takes it too jokesy or whatever without crossing any lines even, and that's not what you were looking for a more serious swords and sorcery game, I'm sorry, but you're sitting at that table now and there's not much that you're going to be able to do. You're either going to have to suck it up and enjoy that funsy cutesy game, or you're just going to have to get up and leave, right? So the experience is going to be fairly inconsistent at times, and that's something that's inevitable. Another drawback for Adventurers League is that there are no individual character story arcs. Generally, in a homebrew game or a home game, you're going to have your characters are going to be well known to everybody and to the dungeon master, and they're going to look into your backstory and create story arcs for your character. But because Adventurers League is mostly full of one-shots, it's very rare to consistently sit at a table with the same dungeon master who's going to get to know your character and create individual story arcs for your character. So if you're looking for more character development in a story setting, generally that's not something that you're going to find very often at Adventurers League. Another drawback for Adventurers League is that you can't really use some campaign-specific character options. So for a while, like Eberron character, the Eberron book had the Artificer class. You weren't able to use the Artificer class, even though it was an official book, because Eberron was not a campaign setting that was Adventurers League legal. So that's been a little bit more lax now, and so they've allowed a few more options, but I think, if I'm correct here, some Ravnica races are not available, and some Theros races are not available. So there are some things that you may want to play, and you're not going to be able to in Adventurers League. Another drawback for Adventurers League is that you're not going to be able to use any third-party or homebrew content. If you really like a campaign, say Kobold Press's Empire of Ghouls, you're not going to be able to run that or play that for Adventurers League. You'll have to find a group and play homebrew, and those characters are not going to be Adventurers League legal, because only Adventurers League legal adventures and books are legal to play with. Optional rules are also a thing that is not an option. So there are plenty of optional rules in both the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guides, and no optional rules are really options for Adventurers League characters other than feats and multi-classing. Any other like spell points and things like that, if you're flanking. If you're interested in using those optional rules, that's not a possibility with Adventurers League. And the final drawback I would say is that the culture of local game stores and the local Adventurers League communities can vary, and sometimes those can be somewhat off-putting to some players. I know for me, there were some game stores that I did not want to go to after going 1 or 2 times because the culture for that store and that the regulars there was not my thing. Let's just say that. So sometimes there's just no compatibility. Not that it's bad, but not everybody's compatible with everybody. And so there's going to be times where you'll go to a game store hoping to play Adventurers League, and you're going to be completely put off by the culture there, and you're going to want to leave, right? So, and it happened to me in several instances. Again, not that they're wrong or that I'm wrong. It just didn't mesh, right? So all that said, would I recommend Adventurers League? Is it right for you? I think Adventurers League has a lot to offer, especially for someone that doesn't have a regular play group. This is going to let you figure out the type of games that you like and the type of games that you don't like, along with the rules of players and personalities that you best mesh with and stuff. I don't recommend it as a permanent solution for gaming to fit all of your D&D needs, unless you have no other means of playing and no regular play group. But that said, eventually you're going to find people that you really like playing with week after week, which is what happened with me. Eventually we found our little group that we liked to play with so much every week. We just said, hey, why don't we just stop Adventurers League and play our own thing with this little group of 5? And we all agreed, and we've been a group since, and it's been like 2 years. So Adventurers League brought us together, and I'll always be grateful to Adventurers League for that. We played together at many conventions, which was also really cool. And the great thing about Adventurers League for me, I got to play with a ton of different DMs. So I got to learn what DMing styles I liked, which ones I didn't, what I wanted to do for my own DMing style, and I learned quite a bit, and I got to play with all sorts of different tables and different characters, different character classes and play styles. So I feel like I got a ton of experience that someone who's only been playing with their regular home group, it's going to take them many, many years to match the kind of experiences that I got from being able to play at Adventurers League. So if you do get a chance, I think that it is definitely going to be beneficial for you to try it a few times at the very minimum, because there are plenty of good things that you can learn and you can gain out of it. If you have a regular play group and you're having fun with it, by all means, stick with that. Why not? Why change something that's good? But just because you have a regular group doesn't mean you can't go and play Adventurers League one day, just to see what it's like. So anyways, thank you guys. I hope that this information was helpful in order to help you decide whether Adventurers League is right for you or not. There are some resources which I'll post in the video description, Adventurers League website, where you can learn more about how to join a game and some of the rules that are available for Adventurers League and what types of characters are legal and which ones aren't. So thank you guys. As always, I am your Innkeeper from the Twisted Tentacle Inn. Check in anytime. I'll talk with you then.